first wife passed away April 20th, 2004. And then with me and the kids, lost my job July of 2008. Was without a job for a year in Texas without family support. But I got remarried, met a woman, met Shantae, my wife, and she passed away January 31st, 2012.
So twice widowed. How many kids you got altogether?
5 biological children by my first marriage and 4 stepchildren, and then several grandchildren through them.
Wow. So you have lost 2 wives. One thing I said to Brian, Brian, I think a lot of men, myself included, we take our wives for granted. So Brian, what would you say to those of us who are married right now, maybe those who are going to be married down the road, about not taking your wife for granted?
Well, 2 things on both sides of that. One is, place a priority on her. Do not take her for granted. Understand all the things that she does for the family. It kind of struck me as sadly humorous. A few years after your wife passes away, then you become not a widower, just a single head of household, tax-wise. So then you're having to pay for babysitters, daycare, and then you're getting taxed as a single person, which really, all of that stuff you don't take for granted until the government puts a number on it. And that's whenever it kind of hit me, But the other thing is, make sure you're not placing your wife first. God has to be first. The sentiment, I couldn't live without you, I worship the ground you walk on, sounds nice in song lyrics. But the better thing is, I thank God every day for you. And unfortunately, I've kind of gone the other way, and I can't live without you. And then, whenever that's taken away, then how do you get by? And you have to regroup, and keeping that right priority is the most important.
Well, another thing that's unique about your situation compared to most of us is you've been a single father. A lot of times, whether it's divorce or death, the children end up with the wife or a grandparent, and not usually with the father by themselves. So you've been a single father to many kids. What would you say to men about loving on their kids, not taking their kids for granted, whether they have them already or whether they may have them in the future?
Well, I'm still struggling with that. But, take an active part, try to do things. I think Scott Aiken mentioned earlier this morning that the role of the man changed with the Industrial Revolution, where he was taken out of the home. A long time ago, one of my children said to me whenever I was at some school thing, "Why are you the only daddy here?" And truthfully, here in LaRue County, I haven't noticed it as much, and maybe I've just gotten blind to it, but at first, 2005, 2006, I was the only man in the room for a lot of those things. And as far as taking your wife for granted, nowadays there isn't a reason why you can't take your child to the doctor. There isn't a reason why you can't go to the school play or to the school awards ceremony. And, those aren't burdens. Those are the greatest blessings that I have, So be active, take part, know your kids. I've got kids in Texas still, and it's harder to do that, and I've still got work to do on those relationships, but be a part of it. Take advantage of it.
Now, I didn't put this question on the list, okay? Can I ask you a question I didn't put on the list? All right, okay. Brian's one of our parents in this room. There's several others who is a parent of a special needs child. And some of us are in that boat. Some of us may be in that boat one day, either biologically or through foster care or adoption. But what would you say to us about what a joy it is? How would you encourage us in understanding how God works through special needs?
Well, I don't like talking, going out, but Noah is more outgoing. I think everybody knows Noah. And, this year I haven't witnessed like I should and things, but I don't know the number of times where Noah's singing Jesus Loves Me in line or in an elevator and he's playing VeggieTales with a group of people, and they're like, oh, I know VeggieTales, and the whole conversation starts in the elevator and we leave and they're still talking about Noah. So there's great blessings through him. And I appreciate all you have done to welcome him into this church and just make him feel just a part of the group, which he is. It isn't making him feel a part of the group. He's just become part of everything. And so I thank all the husbands out here who've let your wives be mothers to my children through Sunday school and other ways. That's very important, and I'm just very thankful for that blessing here.
If you met Noah, you love Noah. Just don't ask him to spin it to the right. He can't go, right? He spins to the left better than anybody else in this room. He could outspin any one of you. He'll never get dizzy, but he just can't spin right, only left. We love Noah so much. Brian, lastly, is there anything else the Lord's laid on your heart to share with us this morning?
Well, don't wait till tragedy or difficult times to be in the Word. I think a lot of us have heard of the non-Christian who says, I'll wait until the last minute and then I'll accept Jesus. And we all admit that that's not possible, a terrible way to live. But so many of us go to church, I do this, go to church and, kind of a thin level, but I don't get deep. And then whenever my first wife passed away, I didn't have the foundation. I was cramming, and God caught me. And I probably told you all this story, but after my first wife passed away, went to, funeral back. My wife had picked out a church for us to go to, but we never went. And so I went to that church. First day I walked in with my 5 children. I was still in a daze. And Sue Parker came out, met me, and said, we've been expecting you. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, we've been praying for kids. And you're the answer to that prayer. So we've been expecting you. And so at that point, God caught me. But I really needed to be caught. And from there, great things happened. Whenever my second wife passed away, I had been more in the Word, better prepared. And so while I was waiting in the emergency room, I didn't know what to do. Okay, it's January 31st, read the Bible. I was going through Proverbs every day, and that was Proverbs 31, the Proverbs 31 woman. Opened it up, read that, and I didn't know whether she passed away or not, but I knew that she had at that point. But that time it was a much easier, difficult time because I knew where to go. I knew there. I called the pastor. I didn't have to struggle for 2 weeks and then have to be thrown a lifeline. I knew where to go to begin with. And so prepare today for the trouble, whatever it is, whether it's a bad grade, prepare today for the trouble because it'll come. And it isn't